But who's not freestyling it is LSU football. And I'm bringing that up is because I'm going through some of these conversations that Brian Kelly had today. And, everybody's talking about the 12-team playoff, and everybody's talking about, oh, man, this is going to be great for the SEC. They're going to get more teams. Yeah, I agree. But I think people assume that going 9-3 is going to get them into the playoff, and I don't think that's going to be the case. Brian Kelly doesn't think that's the case. He thinks that they need to go at least 10-2 to make the playoff.
No. He said you need to 10-2 for sure to be in.
Yeah.
9-3 kind of gives you a chance, but we kind of alluded to this. We talked about this before. The way they have that 12-team structure set up bodes for you only guaranteed 2, maybe 3, depending on where the losses and how the losses come, SEC teams. Because if at the end of the year, usually like that CFP and maybe what is the media poll and or the coaches poll will probably all be different, right? So at that point, I can see we've seen it before in this league, not just LSU teams, but teams in this league that have 3 losses that are literally doing this at the end of the year. And that ain't an SEC team you want to play at that part of the year. But the way they have this thing set up is I would imagine you'll probably see 3 for the most part every year. Getting that 4th and or 5th team in is going to be hard just because of how they have it set up.
Yeah, I agree with it.
So 10-2, I think, is a spot where you're almost for sure in, pretty much.
And I guess it takes some of the emphasis away on like a late season loss because you saw it happen to Georgia last year because it was in the 14 playoff where it was they should be in, but the last thing you saw was a loss. So it's like they can't be in. They didn't win their division. It's like they're one of the best 4 teams in the country.
Right.
Now, if that happens, it feels like you'll still be in. So not so much of you getting the shaft at the end of the year where it used to be okay if you lost, like even in the early year, like if LSU were to lose to like last year or 2 years ago when you dropped the Florida State game and then you look up, you go, well, LSU's now they're going to be in the SEC championship if they win that because they were hot at the right time.
Right.
And now it doesn't feel like there's as much of an impetus on that because you have a little bit more wiggle room and it's not so much of what have you done for me lately.
Right. Like at the end of the year, you got to think at the end of the year last year.
That Oklahoma game's got me.
I love it. It's on my birthday.
Yeah, it's starting to get highlighted for me.
Well, here's the thing.
It's been highlighted for me.
You ended the year last year. You had Georgia was 13-1. You had Missouri who was 11-2. So they both won bowl games. So you got 12-1, 10-2. Really, you had Alabama who won bowl games. So they were 12-2 at the end of the year. They were 11-2. 10-2 before they won the playoff game.
Yeah.
Playoff game. Yeah, when they won the conference championship game and then they won the playoff game or the first playoff game. Lost the playoff.
Alabama
game.
lost the playoff game.
No, they lost the championship. Or was it? It's just that one game, yeah. Right? So yeah,
because they lost to Michigan.
Right. So they lost that game. And then you had Ole Miss who was 11-2. Also, they won the playoff. They won their bowl game, correct? So like that's my point right there. Is you're sitting there with all these teams that have 2 losses. That's 4 teams that had 2 or less losses right there. They're pretty much gonna be in. But I mean, every year if you're gonna sit here and say for sure you're gonna have 2 losses or just 4 teams with 2 losses or less in the league. I'm not sure of that. So 3 almost for sure, but you get to that 10-2 spot,
yeah,
you're pretty much in.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah, I agree. I think 10-2 is a magic number for sure.
Because LSU was 10-3 last year with the playoff, so that 9-3 would have left them out. Not with the playoff, with the bowl game.
Yeah.
That 9-3 would have left them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think people kind of don't realize is everybody was looking at the expanded playoff last year going, oh, how can you keep LSU out? It's like they wouldn't have made it considering what the rules are.
And honestly, they wouldn't have because of, which is weird, which is why I think if we thought the conversation around 4 teams in and that 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 team that gets left out was wild, watch what it'll be this year. Because last year, you know who would have gotten in front of them?
Liberty.
No. Out of the SEC.
Missouri.
Yeah.
When LSU went to Missouri, beat the socks off them at Missouri, but beat them. I mean, you went to their house. You beat them. Like, if I'm walking out of there and I beat you. I ran up the score on you. You stayed in the game. I beat you. I beat the socks off you. I don't care. Now, if I come to your house and I put up 50, I beat the socks off you. I don't care if you score 49. I beat the socks off you. Right? So they went to their house. They beat them.
They went for 2 on the first possession.
Yeah. They went to their house. They beat them.
Ass.
Yeah. And then now you make the playoff in front of me. Why? Because we lost to Alabama, the team that's in the playoff late in the season? That's tough. So the conversation is going to get wild this year when it comes to who's going to be those 11, 12 teams and who's going to be left out on the outside looking in.
part of the big reason why they won that game at Missouri last year is because the defense came up at the end with a big stop, right? They had a couple turnovers. They forced a couple turnovers. They hadn't done that very often throughout the course of the year or that game. Obviously, the offense scored points, but we weren't able to stop them. Then they stopped them, right?
Got one stop, and it was Harold
Well,
Perkins.
we had a great day
interception.
today,
With the interception. Was that?
Remember, we had a great day.
Great day. Great day. Was it a bachelor party?
We pushed the sun back a little bit that day. I ain't gonna lie to you. It was good.
That was 11 a.m. kick, too.
Oh, listen.
Trust me. We was
We
11
know.
a.m. right.
Yeah.
We know. It was a long day. Sitting by the pool. It was good times. Weather was perfect.
Ooh, beautiful day.
Weather was perfect.
Oklahoma, Texas, same day.
Oklahoma, Texas, same day. We were watching that and on the other TV. That was outside as well.
Gus Johnson.
It was great, yeah.
He won't let you sleep.
I know. And Gus, I was hoping that maybe Gus would make the transition over with Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC so we could hear more of them. Ain't happening. No. But anyway, the reason why LSU won that is because Harold Perkins made a big play with an interception at the end of the game, and it was something that we have been desperately needing. Well, Brian Kelly's touched on him a little bit this was it
Rotary Club.
Rotary Club, and talked about how he expects Harold Perkins to reach the absolute top of his potential this year because he's physically developed,
Equipped.
and he's already been equipped. But I think he's finally feels like
Well, he
he's
wasn't because he wasn't heavy enough.
right? And that's my question is when he says developed, that has to mean like, hey, he's finally put on the weight that we expect him to put, but he's also flying around at the same type of speed that he had, right? Like I think that's kind of what he means.
Yeah.
Right? He also had a lot to say about Blake Baker and that combination, and I think that's going to be a huge thing. He also mentioned the defensive side of the football. I mean, the defensive line.
Yeah.
Talked about how there's more depth there than people think,
Yeah.
and that a lot of these young guys are going to be ready to play, which makes me feel like is that coach speak? Is that him just trying to build it up, or does he really believe that these guys, as freshmen, these young guys are ready to step in?
I truly think he believes that this team does have those guys because if you go back to 2 years ago when he talked about the offensive line and basically said, we're not where we need to be there. So he had no problems coming out and saying that then, and I still think he goes about, doing those things the same way as he did it then as he's doing it now in the sense of like, I'm going to tell you what I really kind of think about is right here. I think he believes that, and I get the feeling that he thinks, which is what I kind of was hoping they would have, is a deep group. Maybe not a group where it's one or two absolute star-studded top 15 type of guys for sure, but it's a group that's well-rounded and it's a group that's deep. And that's one position or positions, if you will, where it's not only needed, it's a necessity, but it's what people do these days too, where we're going to rotate guys through. We're going to keep fresh guys coming. We're going to keep a fresh 3 to 4 coming at you. And if we can do that all game, we're in a good spot. Now, maybe we don't have one or two of those guys who are a top 10 draft guy. That's okay. But if we got quality and we got quantity there, if we can keep rolling those through, I think it's something that could really work for him this year. So I'm interested to see where it goes because if you get solid play up there, top 50. I'm just saying. we talk top 50. I'm just saying, top 50.
Top 30. Maybe.
And I think he addressed that. 1,000 yards. Maybe. Anything can happen. I think he addressed that because he did catch a lot of ire from, I would say, like the fan base and like the media of why he didn't play younger guys last year. Like you had Deshaun Womack that would come in and play and look good and play.
Yeah, but you got to be ready.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think he's saying that those guys that you wanted to see last year, you're definitely going to see this year. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like I would say for Deshaun Womack and Whit Weeks are two guys that the defense was such a problem that's like just play the young guys because at least they're exciting and they give you a little bit of.
Well, you didn't have anybody coaching them up either.
That's the real issue.
You know what I mean? Like
that's why they have to be better.
You didn't have anybody coaching up to Deshaun Womack and say, "Hey, no, this is what you do when this happens." When you see this,
Pete Jenkins wasn't coaching him.
I mean, Pete could do all he could do, but he didn't come into the middle of the year. Now you got two.
Week
you got
4.
a guy, a specific
two.
No, one specific coach for him, right?
Yeah.
You have an edge guy and you have an inside guy,
right?
So like. That's a big thing is you have your own – that's NFL shit, right? Like, hey, we're going to work on you, on your moves, on your pass rush skills, on how to drop back into coverage whenever you have to. Like, this guy's a freshman coming from high school to college at the highest level outside of the NFL, and he don't have a coach telling him how to adjust to this.
You gave him no bag.
You gave him no chance to succeed, right? Like, You have that now. You've spent money on the defensive side with your coaching staff. You've brought in the best of the best. You've brought in the guys who are going to be able to recruit. You've got the guys who can be able to develop you, and you've already brought in the talent. You've had great recruiting classes. You have the talent. Now you have the coaches to go and develop that talent. I think they have the opportunity. I'm not saying they're going to be a top 10 defense, but they're going to be a lot better than we're last year.
Yeah, I also think it speaks a lot to the building and the building that they've built and the culture, if you will, that they've built there. Because think about what you just said. If I bring in a young kid and I basically sold you on the opportunity to play, the opportunity to get developed, and the opportunity to go to the next level, and then you come in and we don't have a defensive line and our edge coach for you for the majority of the season, and you were able to retain pretty much all of those players, tells me a lot about what you brought into the building, where you have everything going, what these kids can see and what you're selling about going forward. So that lets me know, okay, this is in a good spot because these kids have bought in to what they didn't have before. You could have easily said, hey, bro, I can't be in this.
Yeah.
I didn't get any better this year. Let me go somewhere else. I've had a million other people courting me. I'll go here instead. Instead, you were able to keep these kids here. That bodes well for what you can do this year as well.
I wouldn't even say you kept kids here, but you did you struggled in the portal at defensive tackle. Like, there was multiple opportunities to get the bigger names, and you weren't able to do it. And so I would say it was kind of a bit of a swing and miss because probably players saw what happened on the LSU defensive line last year with Mikie Wingo, who was somebody they wanted to bring back, and he did exactly what you said. Like, I'm not coming back to this because Matt House was still on the staff. Yeah. Like, whenever he made the decision
you had a second rounder that didn't do anything last year.
Right.
Like, shows you how talented he was and how much he didn't get developed.
Right. He left whenever it made all the sense in the world for him to come back and actually be a first-round pick because the measurables got him drafted alone. He didn't do really anything
no, I mean,
listen to me.
Yes and no. I mean,
I didn't know he was going to be a second. If they told me he was going to be a second rounder, I would have
I'm about to say him being a second rounder with the injury history he already has, and if he had a pretty good feel of that would maybe be his floor, or maybe third round was his floor, completely understand.
I had no idea.
You could come back and be a first rounder next year, and you'll make more money, but you're also a year closer to free agency with a lot less risk of injury while you're making money this year. So if he knew that maybe third round was his floor instead of staying another year to go back, I get it. Completely get it.
Yeah, it just felt like from our perspective, like when you had him, you really didn't get to see him develop.
From a fan's perspective, you wanted to see him come back because you want to see what would happen if he finally got to where his talent said
just
he
one
was
year
gonna
with
get,
him.
Right? And that's a fan take on it, right? That is, hey, that's what we want to see. That's not knowing what the behind-the-scenes stuff is going on,
because you got to think of it this way, like, would it be great to come back here? Yeah, could he possibly have gotten paid to come back here? But let's just say, and I'm throwing a very arbitrary, I don't know the ins and outs of these numbers here. But let's just say to come back here, they said, we'll give you $500,000 to come back here. Okay, that $500,000 for 1 year, or I can go play in the league and get closer to a multi-year, locked up, multi-million-dollar deal. Which one are you going to do? If you know your floor is X amount of spot where you're going to get paid probably that $500,000 where you got drafted at. So you're like,
in second round, you're going to get
paid that $500,000 where you got drafted. Mm-hmm. I'm good. I'm gone.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of where the situation was.
Yep, no doubt. I was actually going to talk about. Oh, that's what I want to say. So I think I kind of like the way Brian Kelly has approached this offseason. Right, because there's a lot of temptation as a coach to go out there and hype everybody up at like this crazy level, right? We used to see it with Les. Oh, the offense is, we're lighting it up in practice. We're throwing it all around, and like Coach O comes in and says, we are, whatever he wants to say, like just pandering to the fans, like making it almost over-exaggerating the hype. Because that's what they want to hear. It gets clicks. It gets all these types of things. I think that there's something to be said for, hey, a coach who's going to go out there, and he's going to give you something. He's going to talk about the improvements, but he's going to be kind of matter of fact. And I'm talking about the way he's speaking on Nuss, right? Like, people ask about Nuss. Yeah, I think you saw what he could do in the bowl game, right? Who wouldn't want to root for Nussmeier? He's been here. He's waited out his turn. To me, that tells me he's got a ton of confidence. Mm-hmm. in Garrett Nussmeier where he doesn't have to go out
and sell them to you.
Sell them, right? And I think he's doing the same thing with some of the guys on the defensive side. And at the same time, he's helping these guys in the way that they play the year, because now the fans who don't see the practice, don't see workouts, don't see the way that they've developed, so he's not giving them this thing, oh, this guy is supposed to have 12 sacks this year. This guy's supposed to be a first-team All-American this year based off of the conversation that's happening. He's like, no, these guys are going to play. They're going to play well, and they're progressing. I like that way of speaking on the team, right? And I think that gives me more confidence in the confidence he's got in the guys than if he was just out there, oh, we're this, we're that, we're this, we're that, and just trying to almost pump them up. Am I wrong on that?
No. I mean, I think he's got, but we always knew, like, he's got more of a CEO approach to how he goes about these conversations. I mean, this is a guy that's 5 years straight before coming here, had won 10-plus games every year, so he kind of had a really good idea of how to build and sustain and go with the program that way, and that's how he's done his thing. So being able to come here, and we kind of saw, when it comes to Nuss, we kind of saw that relationship. We saw that belief kind of cultivated in him all the way back to in my opinion, the Walker Howard situation, right? When you chose to keep Nuss here over a Walker Howard, and in my opinion, it was, I think he's better than you or he's ahead of you at that point, and you kept it there. That lets you kind of know where he thought Nuss was and how close he thought Nuss was and how much he thought Nuss needed to do to be able to get into the spot to where he is right now. Now, I'll go back and say it, like, people try to dumb it down because I think people almost look at like 300 yards, throwing for 300 yards like it's like run-of-the-mill these days, and it's like average. And you forget, like, think back to Jaden's first 5 games last year. Think back to Joe Burrow's first 5 games in 18. Nuss's first start, like true first start in a bowl game, is throwing for 300-plus yards, right? Like, that doesn't happen often, and this is off of teams, off of people who have been playing all year and have a good feel of what's going on. I think the quicker he's able to get on schedule with these receivers, which I think is going to be a sneaky group of receivers again, and I'm not sitting here saying Heisman, first round. Like, I'm not saying that. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what it has to be. But what I am saying is the quicker he can get on schedule with these dudes, bro, with the line they have up front, with the talent they have in the backfield, with the experience they have in this offense, yeah, bro, I'm not expecting a ton of a drop-off. I'm just truly not. I'm not sitting here saying it's going to be the best offense in the country, but I'm not expecting a ton of a drop-off.
Right, 100%. And I think the way he's going about that conversation makes me feel really good about it. There's not a lot of hype. It's like, hey, let me go show you on the field type of thing. And to me, you'd want that. You don't want someone going out there and just saying all this crazy stuff, hyping people up when, like, they haven't really played anybody yet. You know, you don't really know. They haven't even gotten on the field.
Setting yourself up for failure when
Exactly.
you have week 1 versus USC. It's like, oh, I thought this was a championship contender. And he did mention some things that this program has shown where this is the ingredients for a championship contender, which I think is the most impressive thing that he said. It's like, this is one of the best summers I've seen in 15 years of training, commitment, and meeting expectations. One of the most accountable football programs I've seen in my time doing this. That doesn't mean they're going to win the championship, but those are the ingredients for a championship football team. Like, that's
what you want, right?
That speaks volumes to me that, like, they're working on their own.
100%, right? And it took him 3 years, right? That's what
he's been kind of like battling for this to be what he wanted in terms of, like, accountability.
Absolutely.
And doing what the right things are for the program.
I mean, if you go look at all the top coaches ever, that's the main thing, is having the players be accountable for themselves, right? Whether it's self-policing the team, you have leaders on the team doing the things they want, but not really having to do much because everybody's kind of pulling in the same direction. And so, he had to come in here and clean that up over the last few years, and he's done that, and it feels like this is a culmination of that. And that's why I think he feels so confident about it.
Yeah, I think the groundwork's set, dude. Like, it's set. You come in here year 1, you pluck a quarterback from the other side of the nation and bring him in here, and in 2 years you make him a Heisman Trophy winner, and you've won 20 games in 2 years. The groundwork and the foundation is set, and now he's like, look, this is what we do. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that and that competitiveness and how they play from game 1 this year. Like, I really do think that.
Yeah,
it feels like
which is hard, which is crazy to say, because like we said, that's 2 years in a row you got 10-win ball clubs, and we're still saying they're not even close to their ceiling, which is crazy.
Yeah, it did feel like, though, if you look back at those years, that you were never really sure what you had with LSU, right? Like, obviously last year, after I would say probably going into like week 3 or 4 where you're like, okay, this offense is legitimate. I didn't think that going into the year that you would have the number 1 offense in the country, but you saw that kind of play out throughout the year. But then you looked at the other side of the ball, you're like, I don't know what I'm going to get for the defense. And then you had the question marks around Harold Perkins of him playing in the middle, then like, we're going to scrap that plan. And it just never felt like they had a total identity on both sides of the football. Now it feels like they're getting closer to that with how he's talking about Harold Perkins. Like, look, we're committing to him playing in the middle of the field. And I put Harold Perkins in a different box than I put the other 10 players. Like, I think there's a world where you can try to do too much. Like, I would just let that man go play football. You don't have to really coach him up that much, but it helps to have a Blake Baker who's our guy that went to the Cowboys, that played linebacker at LSU, Damone Clark, like made him a stud. And so you're going to be able to be more coached up by your position group, but I also think that there's a world where you just let Harold Perkins go play football.
I can't wait to see that, right? Like, I think that you're going to see Harold Perkins be the complete linebacker that everybody wants him to see, and you're going to see him know his role, understand it, and I'm excited to watch it, right? All of the commentary, all of the stuff that is being said right now, all it does is just
give me hope.
Yes.
Optimism.
Yes.
Especially and
love that there's not any conversation right now. Look, camp hasn't started. And a lot of this conversation is going to be pushed by the media. Because when camp starts, you're going to see somebody make a play or not make a play or do something. And if you've never played football before, the first week of camp, some cobwebs are coming out, right? You're excited. You got some adrenaline. You're in pads. You're doing all these things. You've installed all this stuff, and now you're trying to execute it. Like, you're not going to be as sharp as you want to be in week 1.
Offense is dominating the defense.
Right. And so you're going to have a lot of these conversations sparked by the media asking questions or giving out tweets or showing video of, like, from practice, oh, this receiver did this, or this receiver had a couple drops, or, Harold Perkins got burnt on a ball on a route, or, Harold Perkins made whatever it is, right? And then those are going to ramp up some of those conversations.
Building narratives.
And I think that Brian Kelly is in a really good spot to kind of quell? Is it quell?
Mm-hmm.
Quell those narratives, right? Like, say, hey, we're all right, we're good, right? These guys, and he's not going to put his players in a situation for failure, like by hyping them up undeservedly or unnecessarily, in my mind. But
I think he does know that the expectation is.
Oh, he knows it, 100%. But like, what good? You don't need to bring any more hype to LSU football in Louisiana. Like, you don't. That's self-given, right? Everybody loves football here. They're coming off a 2 10-1 season. They're expecting them to be good. You have the number 1 offensive line in the country. You have a quarterback who people believe in, and you spend all this money on the defensive coach staff. So you already have some momentum and some hype.
I will say this, and I think y'all would agree with this. The hype around LSU football, if you will, if we go all the way back to probably, in my mind, probably like the 2013 spot, I'd say that 5 through 13, that was the hype train at an all-time high. And then from there, it's popular. That's not even a question. It always has been. It's been popular since. But the hype train, I think when you put another 10, 11-win season out again this year, I think the hype train comes, like, it starts getting back to where it was at that point, where you...
Oh, middle of the season you're talking about? Like,
No. Where the season starts and you're not hoping you have a good team.
Oh, yeah.
You're expecting 10-plus wins.
Yeah, right.
Every year.
That's what 5 through 13, that's where that thing got, where you were like, nah, dog, we need to open the season as a top 5, and we need to be in that top 5 at the end of the year. And that's basically a 10-win team. That's where you go through the stretch of, I don't know, at one point I think it was like maybe in the 20 like straight home games that were never lost, like, or maybe even more than that. Like, that's the type of stuff you start building again. And I think you get to 10, 11 wins again this year, you start bringing that kind of hype train back here again. That's what I think happens.
100%.
You got to think, 19 just hit us. We didn't know we was about to have that kind of a year. You didn't know the team was going to be that good. 19 just hit you. And then COVID hit you the next year.
Yeah,
so you couldn't even carry that into the next year, right? That hype train, I think, comes back if you start building that team and the team starts performing that way again this year.
Yeah,